pleasure for me to be here speaking at the Ona seminar series. I think Maria, she was the one that I had initially invited me to come. So pleasure for me to be here. My name is Mario. I'm a recently hired faculty at the University of Florida, Department of Animal Sciences. My specialty is reproductive physiology with an emphasis in beef cattle. I've worked with beef cattle for the last 10 years, reproduction for the last 20 years, with physiology for the last 25 years. So this is the area that I like to work. And the position that was open at the University of Florida was in reproductive physiology of beef cattle with an emphasis in Boston type cattle, which is important here in Florida. I come originally from Brazil. Was a professor there at the University of São Paulo for 16 years. And then I come here with the intention to contribute to this industry. I'm here for 6 months. So I'm trying to learn about the industry of the state, trying to see what's similar, what's different, and see what we can do to help the development of the industry, developing both basic and applied research programs. So I'm going to talk about some of the reproductive challenges that I understand will be relevant here for the industry in Florida. And I'll start with this picture, which was taken in April this year at the Brahman Field Day at the Beef Research Unit at the University of Florida. And over there they have this resource which is they call it a multi-breed herd, which is a range of cattle that goes from 100% Angus to 100% Brahman and all the crosses in between. That's a representative picture here, and I think it is relevant because it's probably an accurate picture of the industry in Florida. In which you have the more north you go, you probably have more of an Angus predominance, and as you go more south, you might have more of a Brahman predominance, and all the crosses in between. I understand that most of the cattle raised here, they will be taken to be fattened elsewhere in the feedlots, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. But the strength of Florida will be a cow-calf operation, type of operation. So it's interesting here because we have all the process, we have the products, and we have opportunities to work. I'll start with the schematic of the bovine reproductive cycle, and within this cycle, I'm going to point out which are potential opportunities for us to conduct research related to the challenges in this cycle. And we'll start with the birth of a heifer, her attainment of puberty, and starting cycling. And after cycling, we want her to be inseminated, conceive, have a safe and healthy gestation, and parturition. Then she will lactate and she will nourish her calf. And if her calf is another heifer, she will start the cycle. Because she is a female, she's going to undergo a period of postpartum quiescence, which is called an estrus. She doesn't cycle, then she starts back into cyclicity, and this cycle goes on and on again. There are also, unfortunately, opportunities for this whole process to fail in terms of failure of fertilization, early and late embryonic death, abortions, and even losses after birth that researchers here in this center are studying exactly that aspect. I will point out for this presentation, I'm going to try to talk about all of them. If I cannot, it's okay. I want to make sure I'm clear in each one of the topics that I addressed today. So one first challenge has to do with puberty, attainment of puberty. A second would be this postpartum quiescence and the time that the animal takes from her parturition for her to starting back into cyclicity and into a new conception and gestation. Associated with that, there are issues related to the control of the ovarian cycle in order to program reproduction. We'll talk a little bit about that too. And also early and late embryonic death even after a successful fertilization and conception. So we'll talk about each of these. There are ample themes. Each one of these would be a seminar series by itself, but I'm going to try to talk about some key points within each of these aspects. Is that clear, John? Is that okay? So let's take this cyclic scenario, which is what we go through year after year, let's just stretch that into a timeline so we'll have another way to look at these issues. And we'll do that in a multi-year success scenario, in which I put here years 1, 2, 3, and 4. The dashed line is 1st of January. Here's calving. Here's a breeding season of 90 days. So the calving season is also about 90 days. And that's repeating across time in multiple years. As a one scenario, I'm proposing a breeding season that will start on February 1st and finish on April 30th. This will be more or less adjusted depending on the systems. If you're based on Brahman, and if you are more to the north, you like to not calve on the 1st of January because it'll be too cold. So there might be adjustments, but this is not too off from what I've seen from some of the operations that I visited here in Florida, especially in this region of South Florida. So breeding season of 90 days from February to April. Then we'll yield a calf season that goes from between November 15th to February 15th. And this is going to be what we're going to try to keep on this 4-year period. So in a success scenario, the dam becomes pregnant at the beginning of the breeding season. This is very ideal, and this is something that we should be shooting for as a goal, to have the animal getting pregnant at the very beginning of the breeding season. This is about a 9.5 month gestation. So then, if she calves here and she calves a heifer, she will. So here's November, the very beginning of the calving season is when the heifer was born. When she's about to be weaned at about August 1, which is also a day that's relevant for this part of the state, she'll be 8.5 years old, 8.5 months old. There will be plenty of time of recovery for this dam, and then she'll get pregnant again on the beginning of the breeding season of year 3. This heifer here, now she was weaned there, and she'll be ready to get bred at the next year's breeding season. So when the next year's breeding season starts, she'll be a 14.5 month heifer. If she's a Brahman, that might be still too young, although some Brahmans can get pregnant as yearlings. If they are crossbred or more of the Angus blood, she'll be able to get more easily. She should be cycling here, or she'll be very close to achieving puberty here, and then she'll be able to be bred at the beginning of the next breeding season. And then if everything goes right, her mom, her dam, and herself gets bred here, this very good cycle will continue, very idealized cycle will continue. She will become a first calf heifer, so getting ready for her second pregnant when she's 26.5 months old. And that's a good age regarding maturity, so she will be more able to keep going as a successful female in the herd. Now that's a challenging scenario, which would be the dam gets pregnant at the end of the breeding season, and then when she delivers her calf, it is already started the next year's breeding season, and if you do weaning at the same time on August 1st, her heifer will be only 5.5 months old, much lighter weight, much less developed, only 3 months, but that's a lot for a heifer. And then if this continues, again, for the next breeding season, again, she will only be able to start breeding when the breeding season is already started. She needs some time here to recover. So it's not the most ideal scenario. And her heifer calf is going to start the breeding season at 11.5 months old, which is much less maturity, more problematic to get pregnant. And when she is ready to get bred on the second breeding season, she's younger heifer, 26.5 months old. And that 23.5 months old, I'm sorry for the typo there, that will be a little bit more challenging to get pregnant. So these are two extreme scenarios. Of course, we're not going to be on one side or on the other side, somewhere in between. But then we have some points that we can try to address to get the cows pregnant. That's my point, at the beginning of the breeding seasons. So the first take-home point is to focus management and nutrition. And management and nutrition is a lot of what this center research revolves about, to increase the probability of pregnancy at the beginning of the breeding season. So then these are the 4 points, and I'm going to start talking about puberty first of all. 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to talk to the Florida Heritage Beef Group. It's a very progressive group here from South Florida. And I gave them this little questionnaire at the beginning, and it's basically to get me an assessment of the level of knowledge that these guys are using. And just to make, I divided it into a 6-stock herd and a commercial herd, 3 different categories of animals: virgin heifers, creamy pairs, and pairs, and different aspects of our reproductive management. And just to tell the long story short, the places that I saw that people had most interest was on applying technology, reproductive technology, to the virgin heifers. So most of them had bulls, and a few of them wanted to progress from just bulls to AI plus a bull. So it seems to be a focus that is important to the industry here. It's something that I should discuss and try to make improvements. So the challenge is delayed puberty, and delayed puberty is accentuated as more of the Brahman blood you have in the cattle. So it is typical for Brasilicus to be more late into undergoing puberty. If it's more boisterous, it's not going to be as challenging. So the delayed puberty, which is a reality and something that we're always struggling to get them bred in the breeding season as yearlings. There are lots of challenges here, like the lack of basic knowledge of mechanisms that control puberty, lack of tools to select for a more or less animal that's prone to become pubertal, lack of tools to induce puberty. They are available, and I'm going to talk about them. Lack of tools to detect, look at an animal and see if she is pubertal or not pubertal. Lack of specialized bulls that would be more adequate for a smaller frame animal, which is a heifer, in case of natural breeding. The cost to develop, something that's a focus on this center. Cost to continue development after the first calf, that's the most challenging category of animals, that second first cow, and some also breeding season considerations. For today, I decided to talk about the lack of tools to induce, and the tools they are actually not lacking, they're out there. They need to be tested on the systems here and see if they would work, which they probably will. So I'm going to show most of the data that I'm going to show. They were produced in Brazil. There's a large herd in Brazil that's basically Bosniacus. The lower is the breed there, which is comparable to the Brahma with different characteristics, but they're Bosniacus, and most of the challenges that are here are also there. So for this experiment, they used Nelore. They were 20 to 22 months old, and they were 100% pre-pubertal. None of them had achieved puberty that participated in this study. And what they did was a protocol, a hormonal protocol, to try to induce puberty. And this is something that I think can easily be used here. I'm well aware of the availability of drugs that are available in Brazil, but are not available here. But so I'm going to make sure to tell you that some of the protocols here might not be exactly applicable here, but the principles that are applicable here, they can be adapted to the drugs that you are familiar with and have available here. So this is just a small number of heifers. They were treated for 10 days with an intravaginal progesterone release device, a seeder. It is available here in 2 versions. A new seeder. And a new seeder, that means a seeder that's never been used before. And a used seeder. So when you say used seeder, it was interesting when I talked to the producers 2 weeks ago, but they were thinking, hey, we thought that used seeders were just a way to save money. And this is not actually the case. A used seeder has less progesterone, because the progesterone has been used by 1 cow or 2 cows or 3 cows in which has been inserted food. And that's important, critical, to control the amount of progesterone that are present on this device. Too much progesterone is detrimental for the Bosniacus cow. So you're going to see the result here. This is a new seeder. This is a seeder that has been used for 24 days. What does that mean? It was using 3 different synchronization protocols, 8 days each protocol. You remove the seeder, you wash it. There is a protocol to do that. It's simple, but it needs to be done because you don't do any contamination in your herds. And then you use a seeder that was used for 24 days in a heifer. So this is the proportion of heifers that had a CL on day 20. So it stayed for 10 days, and on day 20, they evaluated by ultrasonography the presence of a CL. And presence of a CL is a sign of ovulation. So in the control group that had no seeder, again, all of the heifers were still not scientific. Just use the new seeder, 3 of them, so 30%. If you use the previously used seeder with less progesterone, so it's less detrimental, is more beneficial, you have 55%. So just take the seeder, you certainly need to have her. Leave it there for 10 days, and waiting for another 10 days, you're going to have a proportion of your non-cycling pre-pubertal heifers starting to cycle. So very simple, very applicable. Stool management, people don't want to be handling cattle here, I know that, but it might be an advantage, and it's very easy to do. There's a second experiment. It's using some of the drugs that are not available here, such as the estradiol cypionate. Don't worry about it. The most important effect is the progesterone effect. So again here, now we have about 300 heifers in each group. It's a large experiment. No pre-synchronization or pre-synchronization with the seeder. Similar thing stays for 10 days. And then on day 40, they start a synchronization program. It can be a program that's available in Brazil, a program that's available here. We can rate, and the drugs are available here. In the lower, 23 to 26 months, 100% prepubertal, none of them are cycling. You do a pre-synchronization, you do a synchronization, and then you do time artificial insemination on this system here. But this is the pregnancy to the time artificial insemination. The control group, 26%. If you use the seeder before for 10 days, it's a 43%. So you're almost double, or 80% more pregnancy, just because of the fact that you do pre-synchronization. So it's not difficult to do. It can be done, it's very applicable, and I'm going to push to do it, at least in our system in Gainesville. And I will suggest my friend here to do it. This is another experiment from another group in Brazil. Again, they're in the lower heifers, 25 months, prepubertal. Induction protocol is a seeder that was used previously for 27 days. Again, that same story. And it was, and then the interval between the induction protocol, which is just this pre-synchronization protocol, and another tie simulation protocol was 10 days. 12 days or 14 days. Until the time you remove the seeder and you start a time simulation protocol. And here's the result here. The pregnancy rates, if you leave them for 10, if you wait for 10 days, 36%, 12 days, 52%, 14 days, 45%. This is after one insemination that you will detect at 40 days. And then if you, after doing this, just progress to the breeding season. At the end of the breeding season, you'll finish with 76%, 86%, or 79%. So the idea here is that just with your, again, just using a pre-induction protocol, which just putting and removing a seeder, again, on this case, you'll have a large probability of animals that will get pregnant on the beginning of the breeding season. You'll detect it here right at day 41. At the end of the breeding season, again, there's a 10% difference here. There isn't a control group on this one. But you can concentrate your pregnancies at the beginning of the breeding season doing something like this. So just 3 different examples of things that can be used to help you to reduce puberty, and you'll have very significant results in pregnancy rates at the beginning of the breeding season and at the end of the breeding season. This is something that I wish was here. I talked to the guy that runs this company. He tells me it's very difficult to approve a drug here. It is just an injection of progesterone. It's a long-acting formulation of progesterone. And instead of putting a seeder, removing a seeder, handling the animals. When you have to put a seeder, that one by one you stop, you clean, you serve. It's just an injection that you can do right in the outlet. It'll be very useful for the system here. And this is this is the result of a test in which no pre-synchronization was done, or a pre-synchronization was done just as a single injection of this injectable formulation of progesterone, followed by a time protocol. And here's the result. There were puberal and pre-puberal animals. This is the amount of animals that were cycling on day 0. So there's this induction protocol, started here, day minus 22. On day 0, they start the actual protocol for time insemination. And if the animals were not cycling, just because of the result of that injection of progesterone, so this is before we start the synchronization protocol. This is at day 0. When you're going to start synchronization protocol, you induce cyclicity in 64% of the animals, while 11% of the animals just started cycling because probably they were already getting very close to do it. If the animals were already puberal, then there's still a difference there, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. But here, again, inducing puberty now with a single injection. It might sound like a miracle, but it's physiologically explainable by a needed exposure to progesterone. That will be achieved either by a seeder, use seeder plates, or an injection of progesterone, for example. And then the other point that I want to make is that if the animals show estrus during their protocol, their probability of getting pregnant is very high. And this will highlight the point that it's another theme that I want to make sure that I get very clear during this presentation. That's heat, shown heat, is the quintessential sign of fertility. Okay, we don't want to be detecting heat, especially in beef cattle. It's completely not practical. But if there's any way that you can distinguish animals that presented and do not present heat, there will be a big marker of fertility in your program. So another take-home point now is that the pre-breeding season exposure to progesterone increases cyclicity at the beginning of the breeding season in heifers. That's completely aligned with our previous point, which is at the beginning of the breeding season, get the most of our cattle pregnant right there. So for animals that are starting to cycle, you're exposed to bulls, then they're going to become sensitized, and then they will become pregnant sometime. It's doing some kind of a pre-breeding season exposure to progesterone might be a relatively non-expensive and viable way to increase the number of these animals that will be pregnant from the very beginning of the breeding season and achieve that important goal. Together with that heifer that's trying to achieve puberty, her mother is trying to get back into cyclicity, and you want to get her back in the system and try to inseminate her in the next breeding season. That's another challenge, which is the delayed return to cyclicity after parturition. And that's exacerbated in the first calf yearling heifers because she's still trying to grow, finish her growth, and she had to milk her, nurse her calf for some time. So we know it's the most challenging category to work on. Here are some details. It is extremely delayed in Bos indicus, extremely compared to a Bos taurus kind of cattle. There is limited knowledge of the extent of the Bos indicus influence. So if you ask me, how about a 3/8? How about a 1/4? How much the Bos indicus influence worsen this scenario? We don't know. This will be a focus of our research using that multi-breeder herd. The progesterone is required, again, to induce cyclicity and to prevent short cycles. So the progesterone will have both an effect on the hypothalamic pituitary axis to get the animal cycling again, but also in the uterus to prevent a short cycle. That's very common in the first cycle when the animal is coming back from parturition. And then strategies to stimulate follicle growth and the expression of heat is something that we should focus. And here's an explanation for that. If you want to keep a 12-month calving interval So now we're looking at just 2 of those particular years. And here the animal, it was a good animal, good cow. She did become pregnant at the beginning of the breeding season. She has 65 to 75 days to get pregnant if you want to continue the 12-month calving interval, which means for her to again become pregnant on the very beginning of the next breeding season. So if you split up this 75 days here, 30 days is for uterine evolution. You cannot get her pregnant then. It is time she needs to remodel those tissues to get them, ready for another parturition. So that leaves you with 35 to 45 days to get pregnant. It is limited, and it is challenging to get her there. And this is the scenario with the animal that's a bossidicus, okay, 100% bossidicus. It's typical from Brazil. Here, people are much more concerned about feeding the animal, but in Brazil, we will find situations like this. Other parts of the world too, which the animal it had a calf and has a very low body condition score. There will be a calf nursing, and what this does, this inhibits the pulsatility of LH from the hypophysis, the pituitary, and she'll be developing follicle waves. It will take a long time to actually spontaneously ovulate that follicle. So that's 160 days between her parturition and her getting pregnant again. They'll give you a cavity interval of 15 months, which is not what we want to achieve. How do you break the cycle? You break the cycle again with progesterone. So the protocols that must be used on the beginning of the breeding season must include progesterone. The progesterone will influence the hypothalamus hypophyseal axis, will stimulate an increased pulsatility of LH, and then you would be able to use in a protocol with estrogens, which are not allowed here, temporary calf removal, with a targeted GnRH treatment to ovulate this follicle here within 50 days postpartum, and then still keep a cavity interval that's relatively low. So again, progesterone is the key. Treatment with progesterone strategically placed in the breeding program to get this an estrus animal to come back into cyclicity earlier. So the take-home point here, I just complemented the second take-home point, that the pre-breeding season exposure to progesterone increases cyclicity at the beginning of the breeding season in heifers and in cows. Then we go to poor control of follicle growth and timing of ovulation. And there are many points that we could address. For today, I'm going to talk about poor fertility caused about poorly timed ovulation. And this is the main complaint that I hear. So why not more people using timed artificial insemination here? Because the pregnancy rates are low. They don't get pregnant. The protocols don't work here. There's something with the bossidicus blood. We don't have the drugs that are necessary to get them to synchronize better. So are these challenges? Yes. Can we address them? Yes. And indeed, what happens is that there is poorly timed ovulation. And I'm going to show you some of these results of this evidence. But before, I'm going to quickly talk about the 2 most common protocols. This protocol is used in Brazil, in Canada, in Japan, and Argentina. It might be used here because we don't have the access to estrogens. This is an estrogen-based protocol, and the only thing I want you to focus on these kinds of protocols, that by using estrogen on the very beginning of the protocol, you synchronize precisely the emergence of the wave of follicle development, which makes it very easy to ovulate in a timely manner. And what is the key point here is that what the estrogen injection does, regardless of the stage of follicle development that animal is at that point that received the injection, you'll have the regression of the follicle that's present there, and then you're going to have the emergence of a new wave about 4 days after the injection of estrogen. When you compare this protocol with the protocol that's available for us, which is a GnRH-based protocol, the synchronization of a new follicular wave that you can program the ovulation precisely requires ovulation of a follicle that's present at the moment of the GnRH injection. That's not always the case. Actually, about half of the cycle, you might have a follicle that will respond to GnRH and ovulate. The other half of the cycle, you will not have this follicle present. And when you do these kinds of protocols, you get animals at any different stages of the estrous cycle, and you inject them with estradiol. If there is not a dominant follicle there that's able to respond to GnRH, that's not going to be the synchronous emergence of a new wave of follicle development. So then, what's going to result is that when you stimulate these animals to ovulate, at the end of the protocol, some will not. Some will sooner, some will later, some will with smaller follicles, low fertility, some will with large follicles, very large follicles, low fertility, some will be with the ideal size follicles, and they'll be good fertility. So how do we go about this? That's the challenge. Then I'm going to show you with a estrogen-based protocol. That's an experiment we did maybe a year and a half back in Brazil. So there's just estradiol to induce the emergence of a new follicular wave, and then we detected estrus. I told you that it is very precisely synchronized emergence of a follicular wave. Now let's see the truth. This is estrus that was observed every 12 hours, from 1.5 to 3.5 days after the removal of the progesterone implant, and that is a curve. There is not that 100% of these cows, they will show estrus at the same day. This is not true. So even with the protocol that is advertised to be very efficient in synchronized emergence, you have a dispersion of estrus in which the majority of them will be within a 24 range interval. But if you inseminate here, it might not be very good for these cows. If you inseminate here, it might not be very good for these cows. So there is a dispersion. And this is with the best protocol that they use where estrogen is available. This is ovulation, it's concentrated here, but you see it's only 50%. So if you target your insemination to just one given moment, you might get 50% right on the spot, and then some others will not be as well synchronized. So there is a poor fertility that's caused by the ovulation of a small follicle. And this is a point I'm trying to make here too. When you give the GnRH to induce ovulation, you will ovulate a follicle from 8.5 millimeters all the way to 20 millimeters. They will ovulate. But their fertility is different. And here's some data from Brazil. And this shows the follicle diameter at the moment of insemination and the relationship to pregnancy rate. Okay, so if the follicle is less than 7.5, you have a 30% fertility. If it was 7.5 to 11, 47%. And as the size of the follicle increases, when the cow is due to be artificially inseminated, the greater your fertility. So one other focus that should be in our thinking about trying to control reproduction is trying to ovulate the largest follicle as possible. In beef cattle, it's different than in dairy cattle. So you say, okay, I know what's happening. A smaller follicle maybe did not ovulate. That's why fertility was so poor. Now look, this is the pregnancy result only in ovulated cows. So a cow did ovulate a follicle at 7.5, but her fertility is 32%, while it goes to 50, 60, and close to 70% if the cows ovulated larger sizes follicles. So trying to manipulate reproduction to increase fertility not just has to focus on getting a synchronous follicle that can be stimulated to ovulate, but a larger follicle too. So the protocols that can be used, that potentially be used here, which are GnRH, prostaglandin, and progesterone-based protocols, they need to be switched, tickled, so that we can achieve those two things. This is one example. I don't know if this is going to be the one that's going to be applicable here in Florida, but is applicable in other parts of the world just using the drugs that are available here. And this is my protocol that's on development, so I'm not going to show you any details of it right now. I'm still thinking about it, but it has a pre-synchronization step before you actually do the protocol. That means more handling. That means catching the cattle more time. You don't like to do that, and I'm aware of it. But how about if I get here at the beginning of the protocol and I can get a response to generate to a very large percentage of the animals? How about if they all now are growing a follicle there, and when it's time to remove the progesterone source, they all have a follicle that will be able to ovulate. And if you control the timing between the removal of your insert and the time you do some to ovulate, they have a larger follicle which is associated with larger fertility. That's worth trying. We will try it. But is it a reality here? It depends. You have to make some calculations. How much it costs to round up the cattle, how much it costs to remove the calf so you can manipulate this animal 2 more times. Well, I'm hoping those first, I guess, and then hopefully get people more excited to try to do them in their properties. So the take-home point there is that the protocol, that word, I'm not a protocol person, but I've been studying them a lot because of the restrictions you have in the Florida systems. Managed follicle growth for synchrony and estrus. How about Florida's reality, which has natural breeding systems? Is there a use for protocols in natural breeding systems? If you do a protocol, do you have to inseminate the cows 100% of the time? How about if you don't want to inseminate? You want to leave them with your bulls. So look at this experiment, very interesting. I'm from Pietro's group in Brazil. So it has different systems there. It has just a natural service 100% of the time. It has a system that has estrus detection, which is of course is not efficient at all. It's here for the test, followed by natural service. It has a synchronization followed by estrus detection, followed by natural service. And it has a synchronization with time artificial insemination, followed by natural service. So if you just have natural service, that means beginning of the breeding season, open the gate, let the bulls in, and that's it. This is the proportion of cows not pregnant. Okay, so they are open. Of course, day 0 of the breeding season, they are all open, 100%. And as the bull starts to make its certain the cows, the proportion of cows that are open are less. And by the end of the breeding season, remove the bulls, shut off the gate. This is how much pregnancy you have at the end. So in this particular study here, just doing natural service, you see that the proportion of cows that becomes pregnant, it is gradual, and it goes all the way from 0 and to about 80% at the end of the breeding season. So again, 20% of the cows, they did not get pregnant. And they stay with the bulls for 90 days. For many different reasons. It might be fertility, might be unestrus because they're not cycling. If you do this protocol here is one protocol with, in this case, he used time artificial insemination. I'm going to show you a study that Marine, they just use a synchronization protocol and then the natural service. You're going to have a large proportion of the cows that got pregnant in the first artificial insemination right here in the beginning of the breeding season. And then the bull does the rest of the job. And at the end, you have 90% of the cows pregnant. So increase the amount of cows pregnant, and you do increase the amount of cows that got pregnant at the beginning of the breeding season. So they just come to the protocol. That's what you want. It is an advantage to do it. How much does it cost? What's the benefit of that in that life cycle that I showed you in the beginning of the seminar? Here's the pregnancy during the breeding season at 45 days and at the end. And if you have natural service, on the first 45 days, you have 44% pregnancy. If you use your protocol, you have 75% pregnancy on the first 45 days. which is the point I'm trying to make. That's very important. At the end, it goes from 83 natural service to 93 if you have one protocol followed by other rules. So perhaps not that much more handling for the benefit that you might be able to get. I'm just going to skip this one, and I'm going to go to this one. This is what they call a timed natural breeding. No insemination, no semen no inseminator, just the bulls. And that's a proposed protocol for just a control, a group that was submitted to a synchronization protocol, and another one that's two different protocols in which they were submitted to a time and efficiency management protocol, but with no insemination. So here's the protocol. On day 0, after the removal of the device, they will expose to bulls because you will expect a lot of this heat to be concentrated. They have a large proportion of bulls, 1 bull for every 10 cows. And then after 7 days, you can go back to a 1 to 25. Therefore, some management adjustments to your bull herd and your cow herd that you have to do. All this, nothing, just bulls, or bulls, but after exposure to a progesterone protocol. And let's just look at these two groups here. This is pregnancy 21 days all the way to 105 days of this breeding season. At the end of the breeding season, not the end of the breeding season, at the end of 105 days, on the control it goes from 6 on the first 21 days to 17 on the first 42 days, and progressive goes up. If you just use a protocol and then put your bull, no artificial insemination, in the first 21 days you have 30%, in the first 42 days you have 42%, by 60 days you have half of your cows bred. So easy to do, you don't want to do artificial insemination, use a protocol. Do that strategically before the beginning of the breeding season, just use your bulls, and you might be able to get very good results in terms of fertility at the end of the breeding season. Take-home point here is that apply reproductive technologies to increase the proportion of pregnancies early in the breeding season, even in natural breeding systems. This is the area that I worked most of my life, early and late embryonic mortality, but I'm going to be very practical here today. And what I'm going to talk about is the opportunity for early dissection, resync, and a second AI before exposure to the bull. So maybe I'm stretching a little bit too much. I'm trying to convince you for protocols or maybe for AI. Now I'm going to talk about 2 AIs, but it's going to be done in a very modern way to do it that might be very useful if you want the genetics that will come from the artificial insemination. So this is a paper that we did about early gestation diagnostics in cattle. Guilherme is the first author here. This method is based on the use of Doppler ultrasonography. You guys familiar with that? You might see that in your heart, when you do the examinations. You can use the blood flow to the ovary to determine, specific to the CL, to determine if the CL is alive or if the CL is regressed. For a pregnancy to be going on, the CL must be vascularized. If the CL is not vascularized, the cow is not pregnant. So this is a way to check for pregnancy at 20, 21, 22 days after insemination. Not 30 days with an ultrasound or 45 days with a palpation. But you have to know this technique. So these are examples here of corpus luteum that's large enough and vascularized enough that the cow can be diagnosed pregnant at day 21. And these are corpus luteum that are not, that doesn't have enough vascularization that it can, with confidence, 100% confidence, 99.8% confidence that this cow is not pregnant. So it's a way, very, very precise way to detect cows that are not pregnant, and that could be potentially be enrolled in a resynchronization protocol. if this where is there here with the two measurements of luteal area and luteal blood flow, you can get 91% accuracy. So how can we use early gestation diagnostics in resynchronization strategies? Here's a work that was done by Guilherme and Pietro and his group in Brazil. And the idea is coming here, in this area, around day 14 after insemination. You're going to have the follicle of the second wave growing, and it might be at different stages of growth, from the beginning or maybe a little bit more advanced, and it's a good opportunity for resynchronization. And what they did was to try right on day 14 after insemination. You don't know if they are pregnant or not. You get every one of them again, and then you do different treatments. For our concern, our treatment is going to be a new progesterone release device that is going to put in a cow that is inseminated 14 days back. This is the distribution of follicle growth if you don't do anything, and if you just use a progesterone release device like this one, you get a little. It's not a perfect synchrony, but you get a little bit more of a synchronized growth. Each line is a different animal. This is the growth of the dominant follicle. So then you come here on day 2. So you put you put your progesterone implant here at day 14, and then you come on day 22 and you make an evaluation of the ovary. The CL is vascularized, the cow is pregnant. You remove the seeder and I can go to pasture. We have CL is not vascularized, the cow is not pregnant. You don't have to wait anymore. Okay? You remove your progesterone device. You do whatever set of treatments you're allowed to do. Here it has to be a GnRH-based protocol. You inseminate her again. So you'll have one insemination at day 0 of the breeding season, and a second insemination at day 24 of the breeding season. Then you can undergo with those. But then you have, in a very short time, 2 opportunities for artificial insemination, if this is what you want. You want the genetics, you want the larger calf, you want the advantage, genetics advantage from artificial insemination. You have 2 opportunities to do it in a short period of time. And here's the pregnancy at let's just look at here at day 14 of a resync that was done. This is of the first insemination. This is of the second insemination. And this is the accumulated fertility that you get when you do a resynchronization that starts 14 days after artificial insemination. 76% of the cows became pregnant after 24 days of the breeding season. So I'm showing you that it's available, has been done. Is practical here or not? It needs to be studied. It needs to be, somebody needs to test this out and see if it's available or not. But this is where the technology is now. Early detection, 21 days, 22 days, and resynchronization for artificial insemination. I want to show this to you because this is where the technology is right now. What is the efficiency? Okay, I can go here. So using the Doppler at day 22, of course it requires skill, it requires training. A positive, a pregnancy that was detected positive by Doppler day 22, but was actually negative on day 30, 2 to 5%. So you saw vascular CL, but then actually it was just a longer cycle and it actually regressed and she was not pregnant at day 30, 2 to 5%. Now this will be the big challenge. A cow that was negative on Doppler on day 22, and then you did all the synchronization and she was actually positive at day 30. This is 0.3 to 0.2%. So we're not gonna err to that side. If she's diagnosed open, you can't give her prostaglandins, let her back because she's really not pregnant, unless for 2 cows in a cow. So the take-home point for this last portion here is that early pregnancy check and resync is a novel tool for increasing AI pregnancies early in the breeding season. And I'm really repeating myself here that get them pregnant early in the breeding season is a point, a management point, a strategic point for technology, for nutrition, and for reproductive technology that should be addressed for increasing efficiency of these systems here in Florida and anywhere in the world. Sorry. Now, the UF Brahman Project, that's the last slide. And this is the last slide. Because it is under development. The stage, the Brahma Project, what is the Brahma Project? When I came into the department and asked, what is the Brahma Project? So the Brahma Project is a project to increase the size of the Brahma herd of the University of Florida to 250 mature females. That will serve as a resource for research that is directed reproductive biology, muscle biology, growth biology of Boston cattle. How are we now? We are at about 170 to 180 females total. About 80 mature cows, then a number of yearling heifers, and a number of heifers that were just born on this pregnancy. So it's increasing. The great proposal of the cattlemen to continue this project to reach that mature cow herd size of 250. And then that's when we will be able to do some direct research. 250 Brahman, is it a good number of animals? Depends on what you want to study. For fertility studies, it's not enough. Fertility study, you have to have 200, 400, 500 cows in each treatment to be able to detect a pregnancy difference of 5 to 10%. Now, it is enough if you want to measure phenotypes, if you want to measure specific endpoints that with a smaller number of animals, you'd have enough power to detect differences. So, management strategies, reproductive management strategies, they are just trying to measure ovulation, return to estrus, size of the follicle, and things like this, it will be a big enough. What's the benefit of this herd to the industry of Florida? So these are questions that I'm thinking about day and night, okay? How many Brahma cows are here in the state of Florida? Not a lot. It's maybe 1,500 or maybe less than that. But how many cows here are Boston-Unica's influence? Probably most of them. The majority of them are here south of the Florida equator. And if they have the Indica's blood, they have all the advantages of their resistance to the weather, to the parasites. They can be a little bit hungry, they'll be okay. But they will have the detrimental characteristics that I described, such as the delayed puberty, the long time to return to cyclicity after parturition. So how are these genes distributed, the genes that control these traits? How can we select for them? Do we need a purebred herd to select for those? Can we use the animals that are already crossbred that will have these genes distributed in the population? And then use selection tools to find populations of animals that have less of the detrimental and more of the advantageous characteristics of the ground. So maybe I'm not being very precise on exactly how we're going to do it. My responsibility is with reproduction. There is another team that's going to be working with the genomics and with the breeding aspects of this project. We'll be together. On my part, what I intend to do is to measure a lot of the reproductive associated phenotypes, and hopefully it'll be able to be associated with genomics measurements, and then we'll be able to perhaps find markers, go to larger populations of Boston-Unica's influence cattle, and help us to select better individuals. So this is my vision at the moment. It is a very open vision, and I'm an extremely democratic kind of person. So if you have other ideas, if you think that I'm completely off track, let me know, because I'm just starting. And I want to start with the right foot and make a meaningful contribution to the industry. So thanks for your attention, and I'm open to questions. I have to go there, Andrea, to see if there's anybody else.
Can, does anybody have any questions?
Mark, how soon can you expose those heifers to progress?
How soon? So we saw two kinds of approaches. So I think the idea is once you determine your breeding season for heifers, and that's going to start on that set date, that should be the date that they should be getting their first artificial insemination. Day zero means not start a protocol. It's the first insemination or bulls, whatever you want. Then you have to go back. So there are protocols that take 40 days, so 10 days of exposure, 30 days of wait, and then actually 50 days, and then plus 10 days of the protocol, and then you inseminate. Other protocols, like that one from the 12 days between the induction, so 10 days of induction, 12 days wait, and then 8 to 10 days of the protocol, and then inseminate. So however, it's just a back calculation, depending on which opportunity that you want to have for your first artificial insemination. Yes.
I think, if Felipe and I think I understand your question. So if a heifer will naturally achieve puberty on day zero without anything, how much sooner, how far back can we go to effectively use progesterone to initiate puberty in an estrus for a prepubertal lab?
So I would say 40 days.
40 days.
About based on this data that we saw here. Now, I'm unaware of a study that actually did a backtrack to see how much in advance. And actually, based on conversations with people, maybe it's programmable much earlier. But I don't know.
I was asking because we know when we change the nutritional bull patterns from the other 3 to 6 months of age, the impact on puberty is much later, pretty later. Right. I was wondering if we expose them at that age.
Yeah, I thought about that. I don't know, and I don't know anyone that has done. Yes.
What about the use of MGA, physical use of MGAs? I don't even know if it's allowed to use it here.
It is allowed to use here. It is a inexpensive source of progesterone. It is effective in inducing puberty. I should have brought a paper. I can try to find one and give that to you. It will depend on the management system of the farm, of the range. So, you have to feed every day. You have to have large enough of a bunk so that all the heifers are exposed and have the opportunity to consume that amount. So it's really management dependent. While the other one, you could put insert there, but you're sure that she's got the progesterone. In the other system, it does work, but it might need some adjustments on our management feeding system.
Did you see when you're in your studies or looking in the future, the regular time to AI schedule, whichever one you choose, do you see it variation in the Boston-Micus versus Boston part of your time to AI in hours?
No. It is 28 to 30 hours after the beginning of the LH pulse. So if you give a generation injection, which is going to simulate an LH pulse 2 hours later, 28 hours later, she'll be on the way. And that's very well timed. Once you start that process, there's no large variations. Very tightly regulated. So there's no difference. Once you induce it to ovulate, yes. Right.
Has anybody looked at the long-term costs of forcing puberty early? So are you able to then become pregnant at the same rate the following year and the following year? And then what is the lifetime reproductive success of that animal?
Yes, that's very good point. I learned a word the other day about Cattle Reproductive Challenges, which is stayability. So how long does a cow stay in a herd? How long is she worth? So we're talking about basically it's her ability to get pregnant after every year after year for a long time. So I don't know any studies that have actually studied that. People that are selecting for early puberty in Brazil, which is the breeding of yearlings, they're putting a lot of effort, as you guys are doing here, in second pregnancy, which is challenging. And if she misses that, some people will allow her to stay in the herd, some people will not. Of course, the lifelong profitability should have to be able to get pregnant again at 2 years, otherwise waiting.
Yeah, so that's the follow-up question. Is it your best is that second year? What's the cost benefits of waiting compared to not waiting?
Yes. So, has to be calculated, and, it's, again, it's probably also a selectable trait, the animal will be better able to continue developing and get pregnant at the second time after she was induced. How many workups do we have actually? This is all we, well, let's say like this. The concern is old, but the research involving what's indicus is new, because if you think about the Lord's big population of cattle in Brazil, it's a late breed. It's very nice. I'm not gonna even think about it, before the second year. So now there are some lineages, some people that are being selected, and they are able to breed them at 14 months. But this is very recent, so there's not a lot of time, not a lot of data gathered after that. But I'm going to be talking to some guys that are working on this area over there and see if they have some news. That's a very good point. How about here? You guys have a good sense if you breed them as yearlings, if they are well the second year? Second, yes. The most challenging, right?
We early weaned at 80 days every single one of our primiparous calves. All right, the data that you showed on the multi-parous cows using progesterone therapy to shorten the postpartum anestrus period, I think that has an enormous potential to impact the Florida industry. We like your data showed, we calve or we wean in the end of July, and then we calve November, start calving in November. And so that time period from August 1 till November 1 is our peak hurricane season. And that's our opportunity to get that cow back into body condition, late gestation, get her ready to calve and rebreed. And it can be impacted by a lot, like we saw last year when we were flooded all during that time. And having an opportunity like you showed to decrease the postpartum and that calving interval on average 40 days, and increase pregnancy rate 5 to 10%, I mean, that's huge for us. If we could find a way without using estradiol benzoate to have a protocol that could do that, that would really be impactful.
The more that I think about it, John, there is not going to be a way to get good synchrony if you don't do more in terms of reproductive management. Unfortunately. Because the genetic protocol, it is limited. It was developed for the patients from the dairy. That off-seed kind of protocol is not used in the dairy anymore. We need to have more. So today, like a double off-seed, or there's a pre-sync kind of a protocol. Otherwise, it doesn't work because it cannot synchronize the result, so you get hits all over the place. So I had the opportunity, thanks to Vicky that got dedicated to the Calais Ranch. I went to there and I talked to them. They were very frustrated with their artificial insemination results, synchronization results. And he told me, I only got 30%. So this year, he told me that he actually observed heat after the removal of the progesterone. And he was able to measure when these cows were coming into heat, and then he actually simulated that heat. I don't know his pregnancy results yet, but what he noticed was something kind of like the curve that I showed you. There is a spread. So if there is a spread, it means they are not synchronized. So if they're not synchronized, don't do a time artificial insemination because it's not going to work. Never. No one can do that. Unless you had a semen that lasts for 48 hours, 72 hours. That would be one good point for the industry to research, because then you'll be stopped. Okay? But while we don't have that, we have a short lifespan of semen. To do times have to be more greater, tighter semen. The only way that I can see to do it, using a GnRH-based protocol, is doing some kind of pre-sync, which is morning. So if people are wishing to do it, they should know beforehand, but the potential results are very positive.
Okay.
Please email me, please call me, please give me suggestions. I just want to do the best that I can. Thank you.